Hey peeps, look what came today. I got some other stuff as well that I'm super excited for and that you'll find out about in the future. But I'm super happy with this. This video isn't about Avatar. So let's get on with it. Hello there, I'm Simon. Welcome to my channel. Today's topic is a total badass. This is episode 3 of Pride's Past, the show that highlights people from the past who are also part of the GRSM community. I've already talked about Sappho, a famous lesbian, and this guy, Leonardo da Vinci, a notable gay guy. Today it's time to talk about the B for bisexual. Now, usually when we see someone from history who was supposedly bi, we could question that by saying that they were really homosexual, and every heterosexual relationship they had was just pretend. Or if you insist, that they were just confused heterosexuals. But in this case, there's not really any doubt, because this one didn't give a bleep. I'm like 5 minutes in, more or less, and I haven't even said who I'm actually talking about yet. Oh well, you already know anyway, because it's in the title. I'm talking about Julie Daubeny, or to say it a little more accurately, Julie Daubeny. I said a little. Anyway, there's a bunch of videos about Julie on YouTube already, and I normally try not to make videos that basically already exist. But this one is so awesome that it would be an insult not to talk about her. In this episode, however, I'm not really gonna try and prove that Julie was bi. She doesn't need me to. She can do that herself just fine. For real though, it will be very obvious from her life that this lady was not straight. So I guess it's about time we have a look at that life, huh? Now, from that name you may have gathered that we're talking about France. 17th century France to be exact. Julie was born in the year of our Lord 1673. Her dad was a guy called Gaston Daubeny, who may or may not be this Gaston. I can't be sure. Now, this Gaston worked for one Louis de Lorraine-Guise, aka the Comte d'Armagnac, who was apparently the master of the horse, whatever that is, for King Louis the 14th. Louis the 14th. Too many Louis. So anyway, Julie grew up at the king's court, and because of that, she learned stuff like dancing and reading, but also fencing. Keep that in mind. When she was 14, the Comte, who apparently had something to say about that, had her married to a dude called Sieur de Maupin, which is why Julie's nickname is La Maupin, even though her husband would play basically no significant part in her life. Instead, she fell for a fencing master called Henri de Serran, and soon the pair found themselves traveling to Marseille. Reason being, apparently, that Serran had actually been dueling, which, believe it or not, was illegal. And in the process, he actually killed a man, which isn't good. So in order to not go to jail, the two left Paris and went to Marseille. And this is where the fun begins. On the way to Marseille, the pair survived by giving fencing demonstrations. I mean, what did you expect? But when they got to Marseille, she was hired by the Marseille Academy of Music, because as it turned out, she was also a great singer. It was around this time that she fell in love with a girl called Cecilia Bortigali. Serran had pretty much vanished at this point. I don't know what he got up to, but Julie was busy with Cecilia. Here's the thing though, possibly because of this whole affair, Cecilia was kinda made to join a convent in Avignon. Julie was not pleased, so she went after her ladylove to save her. She went to Avignon and pretended to want to join the convent too. And then the two escaped. How, you ask? Well, they got the corpse of a nun who'd died recently and put it in the bed of Cecilia. Then they set it on fire. The idea was apparently to make the nuns think that Cecilia had died in the fire, allowing them to live a carefree life. I'm not sure they really considered how this fire was supposed to have happened and why it was to kill Cecilia. I don't think they really thought that bit through. Didn't really work very well anyway, because she was tried and sentenced for sacrilege soon after. Not that she went to get the sentence, she was roaming free far away by then. You know what the most ridiculous part is? This relationship lasted like 3 months. After that, Cecilia had to return to her family. Quite awkwardly, I imagine. A little later, Julie met a young nobleman, who apparently offended her, and so she dueled him, and 2 of his friends. I like to think that she fought them all at once, but we don't really know. Anyway, she won, and kinda sorta impaled the guy's shoulder. But the next day, when he was all sobered up, he found out that she was in fact a woman, and wanted to meet her. And they fell in love. And even though his wife was actually there with him, they began a relationship. Goes to show how sacred marriage was, I guess. The guy's name, and I'm only gonna say this once, so listen up, was Louis-Joseph d'Albert de Luynes. Anyway, his shoulder healed and he went back to join the army. She then travelled around France a little and had a couple more relations. One of them being a guy called Thévenaire, who was also a singer. And together they went back to Paris. Of course, at this point, she still had a price on her head from that killing like 2 years ago. Oh, by the way, all this happened before she was 17. Anyway, she solved that by just going to D'Armagnac, and he had the warrant cancelled. So, having discovered by now that she was a pretty good singer, she and Thévenaire joined the Paris Opera. So, she stayed there for about 15 years and sang opera. But that doesn't mean she was done being a badass. Not that opera singers aren't badasses. Julie still knew how to take care of herself. There was this one guy called Dumény, an actor who tried to hit on her. She refused, and so, like any civilized man would do, he insulted her. She did not accept that. So she challenged him to a duel, that night at the Place des Victoires. She dressed for the occasion though, and so he thought she was a man, and begged for mercy. She said no, and proceeded to kick his butt, and took some prizes from him. The next day, he claimed that he had been robbed by 3 big buff fellows. So she called his bluff, and showed everyone the prizes. So that was awkward. Anyway, she had some more romantic affairs. Some guys, some gals. The guy with the shoulder turned up again as well, but a few months later, he went back to war. I guess that's how it works when you date a soldier. All went pretty well mostly. Paris got used to her, I suppose. But then the ball happened. The ball in question being a ball at the royal palace by the Duc d'Orléans. So a pretty big deal. So what did she do? Well, firstly, she attended it dressed as a man. But that itself wasn't much of a problem. The problem came when she started hitting on a pretty girl. 3 guys saw that and got upset because that was supposed to be their job. And before you could say duel, they took it outside. She dueled all of them and of course won. Now, dueling was illegal, but the law didn't seem to expect women to ever do it, so she got away with it. But just to be sure, she left Paris and went to Brussels. Belgium wasn't France though, so she joined a French opera group, because Maximilian, the guy who ruled Brussels at the time, was a fan of French opera. And she began an affair with Max. What followed was a series of events worthy of a sitcom. So if anyone is looking for inspiration, get on it. It involved a lot of cheating and leaving partners for other people, and it ended with Julie actually stabbing herself during a performance. Eventually she left and went back to Paris. By 1698 she was singing for the Paris Opera again. In 1701, the man everyone forgot even existed, Julie's husband, returned from wherever he'd been sent. I would look it up, but I don't really care. Anyway, the couple, if we can call them that, lived together for a while, until he died. Not that his presence stopped her from having affairs. One of her lovers, for example, was a dude called Frédéric Jules de la Tour, who was also a lover of one of her exes, Thévenard. Meanwhile, whenever he was not at war, she kept seeing the guy with the shoulder. But she was not the only one. He tried to have his cake and eat it, and started seeing the Duchesse de Luxembourg. Obviously, Julie didn't like that, so she basically just went to Lux and told her to knock it off, or else. Weirdly, that didn't change anything, so that was the end of that relationship. So Julie ended up seeing a lady with the longest name I've ever come across. Her name was Marie-Thérèse Louise de Saint-Terre de Lestrange, and she was the Marquise de Florensac. When Marie died in 1705, Julie left opera and performing altogether, and entered a convent. Oh, the irony. I guess they only admitted her after she promised to not burn it down. I don't know if it's the same convent, but I like to think it was. Anyway, she seemed to have died there in 1707. She was 33. She lived for only 33 years, but she made the absolute most of it. What a badass. I have no other words. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. Time for the YouTube thing. So, you know the drill. Comment, like, subscribe, ring the bell, share the video with everyone you know. Spread the word. And you can find my sources and socials below. Merci, and thanks for watching.